When I look at what separates students in the 160s from those in the 170s, it comes down to understanding the exam from the test maker's perspective, understanding what goes into writing LSAT questions. For those who don't know me, my name is Steve Schwartz, and I personally increased my LSAT score from a 152 to a 175, and I've been teaching the LSAT since 2005. The biggest game changer for me in my own LSAT prep was recognizing that understanding the LSAT is not just about understanding all the different LSAT question types. In fact, that can oftentimes overcomplicate things. Instead, you got to make sure that you understand the argument, that you understand the method of reasoning in the stimulus itself. Today, I'm going to share with you how this changed the game for me in my own LSAT prep and how it's helped my students as well to use what I call backwards thinking, where we understand the LSAT from the test maker's perspective, where we understand in depth the method of reasoning in the stimulus. Because with logical reasoning, there are roughly 15 different types of questions depending on how you categorize them: strengthen, weaken, flaw, necessary assumption, sufficient assumption, must be true, and so on. And it can be confusing to try and hold all of those in your head simultaneously. 15 different approaches for 15 different types of questions, recognizing question stems, when in reality, if you understand the argument itself, the question becomes easy. And so I've helped students through their own LSAT journeys with the insights I gained from my LSAT journey with this framework I call the Socratic review method. It is a templated approach that you can apply to your review of any logical reasoning question type to better understand the tricks and traps that you personally are uniquely prone to falling for, so that you can avoid making the same mistake again. Because there are a lot of different ways that LSAC ramps up the difficulty level of a question. They might fail to include indicator words for evidence and conclusion. They might fail to include indicator words for necessary and sufficient conditions. They might bury the conclusion in the middle of the argument. They may include sub-conclusions or counter premises, different argument parts that are maybe not essential, but they ramp up the difficulty by throwing in more filler to make the stimulus longer, more language you've got to parse through and dissect. They might include additional subclauses within sentences to distract you and make it harder to negate things. And so when we look at how LSAC turns a level 1 question, an easy question, into a level 5 question, the most difficult of all, it's including more of these tricks and traps in their design of the stimulus. It is not necessarily about including something unique in the question stem or including more tempting wrong answers, although they can do that as well. I want you to instead think about this single question. How is LSAC increasing the difficulty of this argument, and how can I peel away those layers of complexity to better understand the core argument? What is the primary subject? What is the primary verb? What is the evidence? What is the conclusion? Stripping away the filler and getting to the center, getting to the core, getting to the central idea of the argument will make it that much easier to evaluate the reasoning, help you negate better, and of course, help you predict the correct answer more easily. The more filler you are wasting time on, the harder it's going to be. And so if we can cross out, imagine that on the paper LSAT, you were crossing off whatever is non-essential and getting you that much closer to the central idea of the passage, the easier it will be for you to evaluate that argument, determine how reasonable it is, what are the underlying gaps in the argument, what are the underlying necessary assumptions or flaws, depending on your perspective or depending on the question stem, and it will be that much easier to determine the correct answer. If you'd like my help with this process at LSAT Unplugged, we guide you through it through live online classes via Zoom, on-demand video courses, small group coaching, and one-on-one coaching programs, highly personalized to your individual needs. If you're interested in finding out more, you can check out the links below the video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, no matter what your LSAT prep looks like going forward, I want you to make sure that you're reviewing properly in depth. It's not just about looking at the answer key and saying, oh, how could I have been so dumb? I get it now, it makes perfect sense. It's not just about looking at explanations online, because that's someone else's perfect way of solving the question that may not work in real world test day conditions. And so I want you to ask yourself these guiding questions about how LSAC leveled up the complexity of the question to make it harder to dissect, so that when you encounter a similar question like that one in the future, you'll be better situated to dissect it and understand it, even if the surface level topic is different, whether it's climate change or dinosaur extinction or car speed limits or what have you. If instead you're able to recognize that core central method of reasoning and what may or may not be wrong with it, you'll be in that much of a better position to evaluate a new argument, even if the topic is different, because you'll recognize and better understand the underlying method of reasoning. Anyway, folks, that's all for now. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.